But last thing we're going to do here today is go into Coach Frank's charts. And, it's one of our most popular segments each and every week, Frank. People love it. You bring up charts you find interesting, and we get to geek out on them. You're up, man. What do you got today?
All right. All right. Well, exciting times. I want to start with something in material space. We talked about the gold and some of the metals, but we're seeing a lot of real interesting things in some of the specialty chemical companies and the packaging companies as well. Packaging company International Paper, IP, is something that I find really interesting going into next week. I actually thought it was an interesting breakout candidate coming into this week. Don't mind that it's taken a little bit of time to get up and running. That doesn't bother me at all. We even saw a little weakness on the intraday here today. And as you can see, buyers quickly gobbled that right back up. What I like about these guys, really clean entry. I think it's actually the same exact number 3 times at 60.33, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember right. So very clear level of resistance. We don't have any weekly moving averages or anything like that to maybe get in the way of the breakout. As a matter of fact, if we break out, we're actually breaking above the 20 weekly. For those of you who are believers in that having a potential impact, got a real clean window to up into probably around the 6250 range, where we do have some old history of support, obviously a resistance pivot, and then beyond that, obviously a pretty clear window from that point to the next. So obviously that's a little bit further away, so I'm kind of looking at that first window into that 6250 range, but should be a pretty easy trade from an entry point of view. I think the targeting is pretty easy. I think we'll have some options from a stop loss point of view to make risk to reward work. You are seeing similar strength in things like West Rock. I just prefer this chart, even though West Rock looks very, very, very similar to
WRK.
it. Maybe WRK, maybe just a little bit ahead of it, but very, very similar type of a chart. Up top, you've got Lynn, you've got Sherwin-Williams. And so we're seeing, not all of the chemical companies, but certainly a lot of interesting charts on both, kind of the, middle reversals to the higher end breakouts. I think there's some really interesting opportunities in this space, including PAC that you just brought up there, Maddie. And so what do you think, Maddie? IP?
When you're looking at this, especially when you're looking at IP, I'm very interested in this potential reversal here. I like the characteristics. I like the downward movement in price consolidation, tried. Downward movement in price, quick downward movement in price consolidation, tried. Downward movement in price, nope. We're going to eventually hold support. We hold support. Point 1, support holds. Let's go reclaim those moving averages. Point 2, same thing over here. Now let's consolidate and give us a clean entry. That's a reversal. It's a clunky reversal characteristics, but I actually really, really like it. I like the changing dynamic here. I like the story over time that's being told on the chart, and I like the potential breakout because the potential breakout destroys all of the analysis, and so I like it. Yeah, I like IP. If you are looking at at this sector and you're looking for a potential, give you a little bit more strength type analysis instead of reversal, I do think PAC is your choice.
Yeah,
really kind of like
sure.
I really like the consolidation at the top of the chart. You can kind of see the cleanliness of the potential breakout, and so I do think PAC is if you're looking at breakouts, 52-week highs, trading momentum, into strength, I do like PAC, but I do like the reversal characteristics here with the very clean trigger on the confirmation. Yes.
So yeah, and that'd be an interesting debate between PAC and IP, right? A lot of it probably comes down to you as an individual individual trader.
And that's why I brought a PAC instead of West Rock, because they're both similar. Right. Give a different view for different types of traders type thing.
PAC's got the strength. IP's got the reversal.
PAC was one I wrote down PAC to discuss for the scatter report meeting. I didn't have IP because I was just scanning on daily charts, but this one looks like a really good weekly and daily type reversal.
Interesting reversal characteristics.
Anything you'd like to add, Tim or Cody?
No, I was looking at all those different stocks as well, and kind of you guys' thoughts clarified it for me, because what the question really I had for you, Frank, was why not WestRock? And you guys have kind of answered that. They're very, very similar in characteristic. You like the IP play a little bit better. It looks a little cleaner, and probably targeting is probably a little easier now that I look
It's
at
the
charts.
targeting. Yep,
Mhm.
it's the targeting that made
I
it
wouldn't
stand out to me.
fault anybody for saying, "Hey, listen, I like the West Rock reversal." I mean,
100%.
I like the West Rock reversal too.
It's really nice.
I just kind of feel like if one works, both work.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And so the tiebreaker for me really was, as you brought up, Tim, the targeting.
Mhm.
I felt the windows were a little bit cleaner in space for whatever that is worth on it. But yeah, I wouldn't fault anybody for moving into WestRock or PAC. I mean, it's nice when you're seeing an industry group having similar
sure.
bullish signals, right? Even though
Well,
PAC is much different, that's still a bullish setup. And so it's it's always nice when you can kind of get everybody on the same page, right?
well, even though Ball is the biggest market cap company in this space, and even though I don't like a trade on Ball's current momentum is going to do nothing but support.
Oh yeah. I mean,
at it with the IP WestRock and PAC.
Yeah, Ball's awesome. It's just its trade was last week, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If you were going to take that little high base coming out of that old resistance, it's a little tough to. Yeah, it was a scatter report last week, and so this week it's like, well, great, but dance at resistance. There's other opportunities, and hey, hopefully it just blows right through resistance and helps its friends out, right?
Yeah, because there's still a lot of people in that trade. That trade's in process.
For sure. Yeah, that's absolutely. All right, I got another one for you, Maddie. This is also one that we had in the scouting report, I think in the stock report last week, and that is ARRY. This is a little newer semiconductor. Doesn't have a long history, but the history that it does
They're more solar, by the way.
Oh, are they? Okay,
they're more solar.
The solar side of things. What I really have liked is I really like the grind. Think about that real estate chart, right? Where you have that grind at the top. It just doesn't want to break, but it keeps playing defense and kind of lulls you to sleep a little bit, right? And then one day it decides it's going to break. Now, it could break the floor, right? Which would completely invalidate everything I'm going to say from this point on. But if it breaks the ceiling, if we break through that resistance, what I really like about this is, we've got the good development in the last few weeks, but we really have, because this is a relatively new stock, it's only been around, IPO'd last October, something like that, if I remember correctly. We've got a pretty clear, we don't have a lot to worry about from old resistance.
Yeah.
We've got a falling 200 that's newly developed. We have an old floor in around 24 and change. We've got the IPO low price up at 30. That's a ways away, but we have a pretty nice window that we can work with. So even if this is one of those that it breaks out and I'm not quite sold, or I miss it because it breaks out and has a huge candle, there's still a really nice trading window in here.
I'm sold here. I'm sold, Frankie. Yeah, I was sold last week. I don't care. Consolidate another week as long as you don't break the 9. I don't care. I like the evidence building into it. And again, it didn't break this week. It didn't break this week. I don't care. It still fits the same narrative. You got momentum coming into it. I didn't need this week to confirm the $20 significant whole number, but if you did, it certainly did that this week. $20 is absolutely going to play a role. Market order above $20. I just kind of feel like above $20 makes a lot of sense. And Frankie, you don't have anything until you gap fill at north of 23, which is a minimum of a 15% movement on a stock. Yes.
Can I add something as well?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
This also follows an IPO pattern that happens quite frequently, where IPOs come out and they tend to drop and then they find their bottom. And I really like the pattern that we're seeing on this, is that this as an IPO stock, as Frank said last October, where it's kind of found its ground. And now that it's found its ground, I like the chart itself as a potential entry, because following that old IPO pattern, now this shows a great entry, not only just for a swing trade, but even for a longer term investment, that this might show a bottoming out where it's grounded and it could be useful in the future.
And I certainly agree with that, but I would have to do a heck of a lot more analysis on the fundamental side. But
adding
because
the technical
there
analysis,
no, I'm with you. I'm just saying, there's some really good fundamental companies that have growth potential in the solar space. And so
Yes.
like, it's just a lot of competing evidence. This to me is more pure technicals here.
Oh yeah, definitely off
I
technicals.
love the technical breakout of 20. And again, it's, for me, it's just opportunity. And when you have an opportunity where I mean, and I'm nitpicking at 23, Frankie. I'm
Oh, yeah.
nitpicking. 25 makes a lot of sense. 20, getting into 26 makes a lot of sense as
The
well.
200 makes a lot of sense.
And eventually getting into, absolutely. And so when you're looking at that potential breakout of 20, the opportunity is into 23 to 25. I mean, even if you want to get a stop loss underneath the base at 19, you still got a very decent reward to risk ratio.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Risk to reward should be great on this trade. Really, however you're going about it, right? Like I said, where you're targeting to, you're going to have some nice stop loss options. I would like to, on something like this, one thing that it might just be just a me thing, to some extent at least. But I would hope, I don't mind that they didn't break this week at all. To be quite honest,
Doesn't bother me at all.
I'm kind of glad that they didn't. But what I would kind of like them to do is make up their mind pretty soon, because I love that they've been riding above the 9 all this time. I would rather them not have that pullback. I mean, the breakout would still be legitimate if we had, say, a pullback to the 20.
It changes
it would
though,
change it for sure.
Yeah.
It would change that analysis. So, I think this one is one that probably, maybe it doesn't have to be next week, but it needs to make up its mind relatively soon.
Listen, at some point it's got to change the pattern though, because at some point, either one, you're going to get so tight against that 9 to that $20 significant whole number. It's got to do something. So I don't mind the consolidation here at all, Frankie, but I'm kind of like, let's get going though.
Yeah.
Because if you retrace here, all I'm going to see, and again, I'll still like the $20 breakout, but all I'm going to see is nasty chop.
It adds complexity that you don't need. If it breaks now, it's a simple trade.
Let's go.
We like simple trades.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Next, Frankie.
It's a real easy trade. All right, let's look at somebody flying higher, and that's eBay.
eBay action, huh?
Little flag following a breakout.
Little flag following.
eBay's on my radar too, Frank.
So I brought this one. I figured this might be a Cody one. And in honor of you being here with us today, Cody, I'm going to throw this one to you, but nothing crazy on my end with eBay. I mean, they've been just on a monstrous tear, right? I mean, it's been an impressive run for eBay. Little flag into that 9 EMA. I think, but just very overgeneralizing it maybe a little bit. Coming in above today's candle on the Tuesday open, expect this trend to continue. Probably, again, it's hard because we're targeting at the top, but just looking at the way that they move, I don't think, asking them to approach that $80 is a tough sell for me off of this little flag. Cody, what you thinking?
I love it. I think the entry is also very easy. You have the today's close, depending where that is, with yesterday's close with that wick that we have. I think the entry is very easy going into that. You have that nice line coming down off this overall flag. I would call this more of a flag versus a retracement. I think this is a pretty easy chart to see from where it broke out before and where we can enter now. And I think our risk to reward can be pretty easy. We can go right below 76 to get our overall stop out if we need to. This is a clean chart. I really like it.
So, and since this is on your radar, I'm just kind of curious from a targeting point of view, how would you be targeting this guy? Because it's always fun to target him at the top, right?
That's the question though, for me, is the targeting. So I'm curious.
So targeting is this also, if you look back at some of the previous moves that it's had, pay is pretty easy to put in place. Is that every time it typically has a move, we're looking at somewhere between 10-point move or 10% move each of these pay ranges. So I think you could easily target an 80 as a T1, and then from there I think you're looking somewhere at like 82 or maybe 82.5 because of the pay ranges that we've had. And Matt, if you could actually back out a little bit more, there's a lot of pay ranges that you can look at all of those different times that it's moved, that when it moves very well. So we can look at those 10% moves and estimate that if we get another one of those in a continuation where we do the full average on it, 80 is actually pretty conservative. We might even go, what's that?
I was going to say that because if you're using pay analysis, doesn't that lead you to more like 85?
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna say. 80 is pretty conservative. You can get as far as 85. So this is a really good chart, and I really like how it did this little break and then this little bit of pullback, because if it were to continue with those moves, I think you can get a 10% move on this chart over a course of a week.
It definitely moves. Yeah, and I am pretty notorious. My target one is always really wimpy. Just ask Matt; he reminds me of that pretty regularly. I always want the opportunity to, kind of a big scale out guy, and so I always like to scale out at target one. And my general philosophy is make target one as easy to get to as possible. And maybe that's just a me thing, right? But yeah, I think we can absolutely target it, and 80 would kind of be that target one zone for me as well.
For you,
the yield is 7 to 8. Easily gets you into 82, 83 first target, but you have slowing momentum in your current trend that you have to take into account. You discount potential average yield, you come down to the significant whole number, which also supports Fibonacci extension. That is $80.
So 80 by 82 kind of is where you're heading.
I would target 80 by 82.
Yeah,
that's what I said. 80
maybe
by
83.
82 is what I got.
Interesting find there, Frankie, on eBay. All right, what you got next?
All right, let's look at your brother from another mother, DDOG.
DDOG. All right.
I see what you did there.
See what I did there? Yeah.
DDOG to DDOG. Let's go.
Brother from another mother. Another little high base breakout, kind of like Pack, right? Where we, kind of, hanging out up at the top. These guys have been doing this little dance, right, for a little bit of time. I think they tried maybe on the intraday to at least knock on the door here today. I don't believe they did enough to at least sell me, but they are very, very close from a entry point of view, at least in my estimation. Obviously, the trend is, speaks for itself, right? The momentum has been very strong. We had that big pop on earnings, and me, I don't know if Matt didn't tell me how good their earnings were, and they're not in my long-term portfolio. I don't have any idea what their earnings were all about, but the positive response is what I truly
Thank you for
care
the
about
trust, Frankie.
Listen, you're my fundamental guy. As soon as you lose
Thank you for the trust.
as soon as you lose it, I'm just purely a trader. There's no more.
So as soon as I lose my ability to analyze the stock, you're going to stop caring about fundamentals?
Listen, you and Greg are the two people I listen to on fundamentals. And if you guys aren't giving me the info, it goes into the trading bin, which I am fine with that. But
I respect that.
The response is what I care about from a trading point of view anyway, right? So whatever it was is whatever. Little bit sideways in some ways. These guys, well, it's not a one-for-one correlation. In some ways they remind me a lot about Team that we talked about a few weeks ago, that had that big pop on earnings and just took a little bit to kind of clean up, I guess, and get up and running
right there. Boom.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And so my expectation on DDOG is fairly similar. We need to take out this resistance level. It should be a fairly clean entry. We're going to have multiple stop loss options, whether we're going below today's low, below the 9, depending. I mean, you might be able to grab the 20, depending on how you're targeting this thing. Just thinking in ease and convenience. I mean, these guys seem like, if they break this 140, man, they always go to 150, right? So that's
if they break 140, I guarantee it's a 174.94.
See, there you go. At least
it's 1 to 1, right?
It's
at one time. It's did at one time. That's how it works, right?
So exactly. Yeah. But we have a lot of clear air above us, and 150 seems like a very fair starting point. I don't think it has to be the ending point for your targeting, but I do think it's a very reasonable starting point. Heck, we could be, huge wimps and try to get one ATR, but even I'm not that wimpy, I don't think.
I got a question for you to clarify on this.
Popular trading. Yeah, go ahead.
DDOG, if we can here, and give me an intraday chart, and either one of you can answer this for me. But my only hesitation is I see kind of an upward wedge where, like, the other example you had a very clean horizontal chart. It was a little cleaner. Do you see 140 as that horizontal resistance?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I would agree. Yeah, I mean, it's not quite as, maybe textbook. I think Team would have been easier to put in a textbook.
Sure.
But I think the general characteristics are close enough, good enough for me, I guess, if you will. But yeah, I think that
I'll clean it up one for you. If you need clean, get into it.
Into it.
Got a nice clean breakout. You really don't have to worry about the earnings gap there. But there's a pretty clean. This space is starting to solidify itself, Frankie. I like a lot of stocks that are setting up in this space.
Another good find.
Unity Software, Snow's starting to solidify itself a little bit, following a positive response to earnings. You know, I just took a quick peek at Unity Software. Team was on our report a few weeks ago on the breakout. This space is starting to heat up a little bit, and that's without us talking about the big dog of this space, and that's Salesforce.
Yeah. And that.
So I like the breakout here. DataDog is one of the more popular trading vehicles in this space. I think above 140 makes a lot of sense, actually.
Mm-hmm. Interesting find.
Tim, did we sell you?
Yeah, no, that's my only question. I saw a little bit of wiki nonsense on the intraday, but if 140 is that clear level of trigger,
and again, there is some wiki nonsense underneath 140, but again, it gets clear above 140. Mm-hmm. So
yep, that's
wiki nonsense just means you got to get above the wiki nonsense.
You got to clear it out. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, very good.
Exactly. All right, and there's one in the chat. I know we're starting to run out of time, but somebody, Smooth, brought up Wal-Mart in the chat. I thought this was an interesting one. I figured we'd probably be talking. It's not one that's really got my attention, but I think it is probably one we will be talking about in our scattering reports because just because it's not my type of a stock doesn't mean
it will get vetoed in approximately one second.
We always talk about Walmart. Walmart's notorious for not being a great swing
trading
stock. Let me put it like this, right?
I'm going to preemptively veto because this is not a step system swing trade.
Well, no, absolutely not. And Tyler, I know you're not watching, so I can't wait to make fun of you for bringing up Walmart.
I can't wait for Tyler to bring it up.
I can't wait for you to bring up Walmart.
I will say on Walmart, the weekly chart, and again, most analysis on Walmart should start on a weekly chart. The weekly chart looks like it's solidifying itself. I like the weekly chart here on Walmart. You see that as a little bit of a breakout from a month ago. Well, what did it do over the last 2 weeks? Tested that channel. I like this from a weekly perspective. But swing trades, I mean, you got to be targeting certain things. And
exactly. And I would counter if you're in Walmart, that's much different than trying to get in Walmart right now. I would.
Yeah, if you picked it up at 146,
if you bought it, because it bounced like right off of the 9, off of that, and good job for you. So I don't think anything has changed. I think, if you have traded or moved in on this pullback, or, sat through got in on the breakout and sat through the retracement, I don't think your analysis has changed at all. I think you're still looking at working towards 152. I do think that that's probably, the most likely thing to me is just to try to trade it from here. That would be difficult. But, you look at this thing on that weekly, it looks like, hey, it's not too far down the road. We could maybe be talking about a weekly cup and handle, right? So I do think you like it. I think it does want to test that 152 zone of resistance. If I were here, I'd be okay, I'm cool with it. But again, I would agree.
But swing traders aren't going to be looking at 149 to 152 and be like, hey,
exactly. It's just not the swing trader in me looks at it and says, well, I think it's going to 152, but there's nothing to do with it.
We're going to go. Swing traders are going to go find that same $3 movement on a $22 stock.
Yep, that's right.
Yep. Like your breakout. We already did your breakout of the $20. What was the symbol?
ARRY.
ARRY.
ARRY. Yep. ARRY's an interesting one. All right, Tim, you gonna let me have one more?
Yeah,
one more.
Oh, you're the man, Tim. I knew I could get that by you. And this is just another high flyer, and that's TPX. Who doesn't enjoy a quality night's sleep on their Tempur-Sealy international bed? I don't know anybody who does not. These guys.
I was trying to find a sarcastic comment. Yeah.
Right. This segment is brought to you by
Tempur. You're almost doing a plug for them there.
Exactly. Well, listen.
Product placement marketing is 101.
Who's to say I'm not only a client, I'm also the president. Maybe you never know. But what I do know is this is a really pretty looking little chart. We recently broke out of a weekly range. It would have been real tough to trade that weekly breakout just because at that big pop on earnings and just choppy. But what we've seen over the last week and a half is this consolidating development with that rising 9 that you and I and Maddie and Tim, we always are looking for that type of development. Very clean entry on the breakout side of things. Again, a high flyer, so we don't have any old resistance to get in the way, which means our problem is it's a good problem to have, right? Well, do we target it to 48 by 50, to 50 by 52, right? I love having those debates because that means
Momentum.
there's nothing in the way
Yeah.
to scare me, right? And so should be a pretty clean entry. Again, I would like to see it get that springboard off the 9. I would prefer that than to say, give up this little fight. It's okay if it does, but it doesn't hurt to ask for exactly what you want, right? But a little bit of a
I think
break
the
above that
evidence is
40.
here. Yeah, I
think
think
so
the
too.
evidence is here. You got a nice consolidation. It's rode the 9 the last 3 days. You pop here today. You certainly don't like it if it violates the 9 because it changes the pattern. And then you just got to wait for the breakout. But the potential on that breakout is literally here. You're staring at a price of 45.98. The breakout channel is 46. It's just a matter of triggering. Do you want to be aggressive? Do you want to be conservative? Do you want to wait for a close above 46.12, or do you want to wait for a close above 46? I think those are all subjective to the trader. But either way, I don't care. It's a legitimate breakout with a clean trigger.